Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the European Crossover webinar. And let's go and get started with the economic calendar to see what we have on tap. We did have Italian business confidence come out. That came out at 1:14, and that was earlier at will be 4 a.m. Eastern, right when the webinar should start. We're starting a little bit late. My alarm did not even go off. I'm sure it happened. Just happened to just wake right up. Um, We do have Italian trade balance. Now that's going to be due in another, actually at the top of the hour. And earlier we did have German consumer climate. That came in at minus zero point 0.3. They were expecting a negative 4.0, so certainly an improvement. And that will be it until we get to the U.S. session. And we will have PCE, U.S. PCE index will be out at 8:30 Eastern. They're expecting a rise of 0.6. Of course, personal income and spending also at 8:30 Eastern. And then at 10 a.m. Eastern, we will get Michigan consumer confidence. That's going to be the secondary numbers. And that will be it. That will be it. Taking a look where we're at, yesterday we traded in a really flat session overall. Once we got into the U.S. session, and I'm talking about the SPOOs as well as the NASDAQ. We're trading relatively quiet right now, and you can see that here. Still holding up fairly well, but been a super quiet session. I mean, look at this. Compared to what we've seen before, it'd be top to bottom would be 10 handles, but looks like the majority of it has been trading within a 5-handle range. And we're going to take a look where we are with the NASDAQ. And look how tight the NASDAQ's been. Holy smokes. We're all pushing up a little bit towards the higher end of the NASDAQ, but boy, it has been quiet. And, it's hard to fade this stuff on a Friday. So I was actually short yesterday, and I was actually glad to go in and get out when it dipped. I was actually hoping for this thing to break a bit harder. It did not, and the volume wasn't even picking up that much when it started, selling off. So at least not heavy volume. But that was my concern because we come back up, then you definitely, and I think I mentioned it on Friday in the chat, definitely don't want to be going against the grain is what I called it at the time, on a Friday. It just doesn't work very well. It's just almost one of those 100 to 0 win marks, or should I say failure marks if you're trying to go against the grain. Take a look at where we are with gold. Fairly quiet here, and same thing with FX. FX has been just deathly quiet for most of the week. We'll get back to that. Well, let's go on and roll into the other screen. See what Bitcoin is at right now. It's been kind of a nice bounce back with Bitcoin. Here we go, we rally up, and then we almost make it to the 50%. We come down. Looks like we may start to see a slide. And then we just start a steady progression higher. Looks like, okay, we've tagged the 50%. Maybe looks like a little bit of a gravestone doji. Maybe we're going to start to slide. But Bitcoin, it doesn't make erratic moves in a short time frame. So you can see how it just gently drifts, makes another move up here. And then finally, we do come back. But look how quiet it's been. Just quiet drift. Take a look at crude oil after that high, challenging the continuous monthly close at 74.23. Market topped at 74.25. We did fall off a decent amount, nearly a $2 fall from there. And then we've kind of saw a little bit of a steady rebound here at this point. and trading relatively quiet. With that, we'll go on and get started with the analysis. Remember how this thing had a hard time yesterday? It's still, okay, hopefully it corrects itself today. Let's go move into the euro. Boy, this has just been so quiet over the last few days. Look at that. And yesterday, traded in a range of, what was this, 1917 to 1956. Holy smokes. What was it, like about a 30 pip trading range? And it's still not going anywhere. Look at that. Unbelievable. So the euro remains locked into a tight range just above 119. Resistance for Friday will be 1984. We supported 1889. It looks like we're going nowhere fast. 1889 support's going to stay the same. We're just giving it some room in case we do want to pop up a little bit. So we're going 1984 on the upside. You know, we can take a look at a profile here on the 6E, but it's just not going anywhere. We're just not going anywhere. This market is just as quiet as it can be. Just nothing to go and show up here. Let's go and move into the cable. A bit lower for today. So the cable closed slightly lower on Thursday, although holding above 139. We're just, let's say, barely holding 139, but we are holding it. Resistance for Friday is going to be 39.84. That doesn't look like a possibility. We're supported 38.78. Now let me take a look here. The futures are trading at actually a 5 pip discount to the cash. So if we take a look here, what we got here, pretty good resistance. You got the POC here, and remember, it's trading at a 5-point discount. So we got the POC from yesterday at 39.63, which would be 39.68 in the cash, 39.69, so 39.68 to 74 for resistance. Well, we should run into some selling. So I'll tell you what, let's go with just this upper POC here. We're looking at 39.74 on the stretch. Oh, that's what we have, 39.74. Okay, and then on the support, Well, the value area low from what is it going to be on Tuesday was 38.70, which would be 38.65. We do break a little bit lower. And it's traded at a discount, so it's going to be 38.70. So it moves down to 38.70. Futures are trading actually at a 5 pip discount. Let's go move into the Aussie dollar. So the Aussie continued its retracement, albeit slowly finishing Thursday with a doji. You can see that right here. Friday's resistance will be 76.14. With support at 75.37. And let's go move into the dollar yen. So the dollar yen closed lower on Thursday, just below 111. You can see that here. In a quiet range. Resistance for Friday will be 11.19. So we're going to go and keep the same resistance. And support would be 10.48. So no changes here in the dollar yen. And like I said, a little bit quiet, but boy, we did make that move and challenge up there at 111, although trading fairly quiet like so many of the dollar pairs. Let's go and move into the cash dollar index. So the dollar index closed with a doji on Thursday. You can certainly see that. I guess we could expand this to a little bit further. With the doji, within a 34 tick trading range. This was really a crazy type day yesterday. And for some reason, I don't know why FX has really been quiet this week. Resistance on Friday will be 92.06 with support at 91.53. So we're going to keep the support the same. The only thing is we're going to tighten this resistance a bit. And still relatively quiet. Although you have to give the dollar index a bit of props. It's still holding up, even though these indices continue to move higher. And as we said, it just didn't seem like down here, as many opportunities as it had to break lower, at the end of May, or actually, from the middle of May to the end of May, it just simply didn't want to break lower. With that, we'll go and move into Bitcoin. So the Bitcoin, after recovering from below 30,000, managed to stay above the 32K, which was, I'm not sure why they didn't update. And now we're looking at the daily. I'm a little bit, as I said, a little bit surprised. When we saw the first fall, I'm talking about this fall down here from 30,000, I meant to say the first rebound. This thing looked like, I was surprised to the extent that it rebounded. And didn't even take a pause at the 38%, just held its own, kept moving higher. I'm thinking, okay, we're going to come to this 50,000. I thought, you know what, I'd like to take a dabble in here, take a short up here. And I can tell you here, I remember keeping an eye on it, and it was just sitting quiet. And then all of a sudden, nowhere, it just pops up, but doesn't quite make it to the 50%, nor does it even make it to this level, which you can see right here, 34,932. And then we just quickly, so look at that, it just quickly comes off, and then we just kind of just start to languish lower. And then as we came up yesterday, you can see here we just kind of stays relatively quiet. You'll see a little fit here, but for the most part, we just kind of move from a range to another range and just stay quiet. I didn't see this, but boy, we popped up above the 50%. Looks like a gravestone doji. But even then, if you sell it, look how quiet it is. It's just real quiet, kind of heading lower. And we make one more last hurrah back up here, take out the highs, and then we just start a slow grind lower. I guess if you don't mind hanging on to this thing, it will pay you, but holy smokes, that is just quiet. So, looking at where we're at today, we'll be looking for resistance, would have been right here, which would be 34,937, back to that same level. And support, we're going to go right there with that body right here. That would be 33,693. Let's go and move into the spoos. So the spoos spent Thursday in a tight range during RTH, regular trading hours. We can take a look at that. The market is likely to push stops going into the end of the week. Resistance is going to be 42.76 with support at 42.46. 42.76. And we support at 42.46. And look at that. This has been a grind higher. Look at that. And right now, it's just quiet as all get out. And we talked about such a quiet day, RTH. You can see that yesterday. Boy, look at that tight range. Going back to the full session. We're looking at the midpoint for yesterday's full session. Comes in here to 42, can't talk, 42.47. The bottom of the range here, can't be losing my doggone train of thought, of the lower value area here. Got the upper value area here, which was almost all the way to the top. And that was for yesterday's full session. Down here at the bottom, the lower value area low is coming in here at 42.44. That actually confluences here. And like I said, there's many ways to go and use the profile. I don't say many ways, it's just that the way I generally will just look at it is I'm just looking for confluence. I'm just keying in on the value areas for prior days and see if there is confluence. You can see here that the value area high for Wednesday came in at 42.43, which is pretty much close to the value area low, which is the gray area for yesterday, which is 42.44. So we'll go with the 42.44 Actually, give it a little bit of room. 42.43 on the downside. And like I said, with us being on a Friday as you go into the end of the week, if you're holding up this well, generally they're going to go and push those levels, those stops, and we're looking for 42.76 on the upside. 42.7, thinking that they'll push it. We'll see how much further they go. Um, let's go on and move into the Nasdaq. Look at that daily, and we still continue to just lurch higher. Pretty tight range, which was on Wednesday, but we're still pushing higher. And take a look at where we are. We did make it to that 161%. We pushed yesterday above 14,000. We came back in and we've just remained quiet. Uh, my thoughts would be then for the resistance, we're just going to go with the highs from yesterday, which would be 14, let's just call it 14,421. Let's see what we see on the downside in the profile. Boy, these ranges, look how tight they are. Holy smokes. You can see here that the high was actually 14,424. We'll update that to 14,424 for resistance. Yesterday's value area low in the full session, not RTH, but in the full session, was 14,324. And the POC for Wednesday comes in right there at 14,271. I like that area, 14,271. If you look at that, that confluence is essentially with the low here. And if you look at the POC there, that actually confluences with the range high here, which would have been Tuesday. So tell you what, let's go with that. Let's call it 14. Let's just call it, keep it simple, 14,270. Sorry, it doesn't look like it wants to be down there. There we go. Let's go and move into the gold market. Come on, stick it the other way. Oh, we are really quiet here in gold too. Now, yesterday we had, in case we were to break down to 1759, we had 68 and then 59. Looking for the back, we're not going anywhere. So really, but we are holding it here at 1782. If you look here, seem to be holding up really well against this 1770 essentially. And if you look at the value area low, Boy, we stand in a fairly tight range. See right here. So we're going to go 1770. If we do make that dip, doesn't look like we got that to worry about. We'll go with 1770. Are kind of pressing the upside a bit, and we did have 1789 from yesterday. Taking a look at resistance. The high for the session up in here, which was going to be on Wednesday, right there, 1797, and that's pretty much close to the high here, which I guess was last Friday, and the midpoint here. Let's just go 1797. If they do kind of gun some stops, doesn't seem likely. Let's go with the 1789/96. If we do press that, I've got 95. 1795. Now let's go move into crude oil. Looks like we made a rebound right back here to the same level here, which is 73.59. Although that's, if you go with the body, there's 73, almost 73.60. Held up really well. I mean, after tagging this, we had the monthly continuous closing contract closing price, 74.23. We took it up by 2 cents that day. We were talking about it in the chat room, and we faded back, but look how it's held up relatively well. We are dipping back here. We're going to take a look at it on a profile. You can see the value area high here, 73.70. We'll go with that for resistance. And for support, value area low from yesterday was 72.92. And the pop from Tuesday, you can see that right there, right here, is 72.95. I'm looking at 72.92 here. Let's go with 72.92. Might be a little bit close though. Let's go and take a look at. We are pulling back though. Nice pullback. Look at that. Oh, there you go. Yep. Look at that. That's 72.98 coming across this body. So if we go with the most touches, it'd be 72.84. Here we go. 72.84. So let's go with that for support. And there we have it. And there's a bias chart for today. We'll get that posted in the room. And thanks for joining us here on the European Crossover.